welcome back to another video. Welcome to another, I don't even know what day I'm gonna upload this. Welcome to another video, guys. So this is gonna be like probably my last video that's gonna go up on my channel before Briarfest. I really want to take the month of June to focus on Bloodborne and like other priorities I have. So I just want to put that out there because I did want to film this video. Because I did read a lot of books in May, and I'm proud of myself for how much I've read because I don't think I've ever read this amount of books before, like in a month. So yeah. So we're going over my May reading wrap up. So we're going over all the books that I read in the month of May. I read 13 books this month, which is crazy. Never read that much before, so I'm really excited to talk about all the books. So starting off, the first book I read this month was Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I gave this book 4 stars out of 5. I really liked it. I really liked the writing. It was pitched as like a dark academia read, and it like held up to that, and it had its own like supernatural twist to it, which I really liked. So then I read Vengeful, which is book 2 to Vicious, because it's a duology. I also gave this book 4 stars. It barely got 4 stars though, because it took a hot minute for things in this book to pick up. And then things like got good at this little last section, and then I was like, I just wasn't really blown away by it, but it was still like good, and I didn't feel like it deserved a 3 stars, so I gave it 4. So yeah. So then I switched over to my Kindle. I read a lot of books on my Kindle this month. So the next set of books I read was the Hunger Games trilogy. I gave every single book a 5 stars. So overall the trilogy was 5 stars. These books were so good. Like, there are so many details that like the movies missed out on in these books, and I was like reading them, and I was like, I forgot how dark they were, because there were so many things, and I was like, I forgot they happened. And I rewatched the movies too, and I was pissed because they left certain stuff out that I felt like was so valuable. These books were so good. And then I read Ice Planet Barbarians. I gave this book a 3 stars. I think I read it in like a day and a half. It was a really easy read. I read this book out of spite because a little birdie was like, Grace, I don't think this is a Grace book. And I was like, oh, now I have to read this. So I read it. I can confirm parts of it are like a Grace book, you know? Or, yeah. I gave it a 3 stars. It wasn't anything, it's essentially like a smut book. So it was pretty good. I've read better smut, I will say. But I read it to read it, you know? These next 3 books I read when I was traveling, and when I tell you, absolute perfection. So we're starting off with The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I just want a moment to appreciate this book, because this book got me out of my writing slump. Like, I'm so grateful for this book. It's literally vampires meets fantasy meets Hunger Games, and there's enemies to lovers, and there's betrayal, and there's like complicated family relationships, and there's friendship. And then after that I read the novella, and it was Six Scorched Roses, also by Miss Carissa. I gave this a 5 stars as well. It goes over this character named Lilith and this guy named Vale, and it's in the same universe but like different characters, and they come to the second book and you kind of meet them in the second book, but you're just getting their whole story in like this little novella, and this was so well done. And then I read the second book, which is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. 5 out of 5. Book with 5 out of 5. But we're following Araya still throughout the second book of her story. I'm not gonna give anything away. I just can't, you know. But once again, you have to read it because like the Enemies to Lovers continues, you know, in the second book. And it's just top tier. You guys, I'm begging you guys, somebody read these 3 books and then come talk to me about it so we can like talk about it, because like I can't explain to you the love I have for these 3 books. Okay, moving on from my tangent, the next book I read was Stars Collide by Rachel Lacey. I gave this book a 4 stars. It's a rom-com. It's about these like 2 singers, Eden and Anna, and they go on tour together, right? And they fall in love, and it's so good and it's so nice. And Eden is like straight and Anna is pansexual. And normally when it's like when a character goes from straight to like not straight, there can be a lot of things that happen that I just can't stand in the book. But when it came to this book was so well written. When it came to like this Eden, who's like straight, she comes to her like accepting her sexuality. It's just a very nice way that she just accepts it. And the way she handled that it just reminded me of how I was working through my sexuality and dealing with that and coming to terms with that, which it was really nice to see another like approach to this way of a character coming to terms with themselves, because it's just something I haven't seen really. So then we're doing a 180 because I read my first dark romance. I read Until I Get You by Claire Contreras. Dark romance is like the subgenre in romance. It's essentially like romance from the view of falling in love with like the villain essentially, and it can deal with like mafia romance and darker undertones, and like certain like life or death situations can come up with between certain characters. Does that make sense? Anyways, this book was so good. But also, please check the trigger warnings before getting into any dark romance book, and don't do what I did, because I binged this book all in one sitting, and that was not a good idea. So just be careful when you're reading, because heavy topics are talked about, and make sure you're just prepared before getting into that, you know. It was really good. It follows this girl named Lila who falls in love with this guy. I don't remember his name, and it's not saying it in the summary. Anyways, she falls for this dude, right? They get together, and then she gets away from him because of something that happens, and then he's like, I need to go after her. So he goes to get her back, and it's like dark, and it takes place in like college and post-college. So as someone who's in college, it's just very nice to read about people my age and not like a YA book. So I really enjoyed this. I don't know how I felt about like certain moments with some of the things that like these characters did. So that's why it's like a 4 stars. But still a good time. I would still recommend this book because it is so good. What a fun little read. Let me tell you. Okay, so then the last book I read this month was By a Thread by Lucy Score. This was a Grumpy Sunshine romance, and it was a workplace romance, but like not in the way of like the one person's a CEO and the other person is a bottom rang employee, you know. It was more like two middle people, you know, getting together. Does that make sense? Anyways, this book was so good. The banter, amazing. The guy is obsessed with her. Sign me up. Sign me up. I gave this book a 4 stars. It was really good. I really liked it. It's about this girl named Allie who loses her job because Dominic, the love interest, got her fired because he's a dick. He's a rich dick though. And essentially she ends up at his workplace and they get like working together. And it stars like in the fashion industry, which is really fun. It doesn't focus too much on the fashion industry. Excuse me, but it is still like a really interesting perspective of a book. I will say I did not like the ending. I did not like the ending. There was a 3rd act breakup and I was a little like, okay, I guess. Like some of the things felt like they came a little bit out of nowhere in that argument. And the ending felt a little like we jumped right to it. We had an ending, then we went to an epilogue. And then suddenly there was like just a lot going on in that epilogue and I was like, hello? What is going on? What's happening? I will say the smut in this book, the sex scenes written in this book were good. There were good sex scenes written in this book. Honorable mentions of other sex scenes written in the books I've read. Stars Collide had amazing well-written sex scenes. Also, the Serpent and the Wings of Night books had great sex scenes written in it as well, okay? I love a well-written sex scene that adds to the plot, okay? So, if that helps with, if that's like helping with you like being like, okay, Grace, I'm hearing what you're putting down, I'm gonna pick up a book. Those are the ones with the good sex scenes, okay? Let me tell you about that. Okie dokie. So those were all the books that I read in the month of May. This is probably the most I'm gonna read in the month for like the rest of the year, to be honest. I was not expecting to read this much at all. Like I was shocked by myself. Okay guys, so those were all the books I read. This was my May reading wrap up. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for hanging out on my bed with me. I was way too lazy to do any kind of elaborate setup. So this is what we're working with, so cool beans. I'll see you guys in July with Briarfest content. Yeah. I'm so excited. You guys are gonna get so much content from all of us. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys later. Bye. We did it. Oh my god, no. Now I'm leaving.